So last but certainly not least, we finally get to the Kult of Speed list. So this Kult of Speed list was at ATC, the 5-man team event. He was a member of Team Battle Brothers, which I believe they ended up winning the whole event. Actually, they did. That was a dumb thing to say. They ended up winning the event. The final round, they went against my team. I wasn't performing, but my team. So shout out to them for putting up a great game. And let's take a look at Eric Hoerger's Kult of Speed list. So shout out to Eric. So on Eric's list, we have 3 Deffkilla Wartrikes. One of them with WAAAGH Blaster, which is great for the additional movement and consolidations. Yes, Jay, it's finally come true. You've only been saying it since last November. 18 Deffkoptas. Then we have a Boomdaka Snazwagon for 80 points, followed by, yes, 18 Deffkoptas, which is great value. And, you know, we're going to talk about a little bit the shred of how this list worked, because I think it caught people off guard. Cult of Speed. I know the War Games live guy was like, what? What is this list even trying to do? So we have 2 units of Gretchen, followed by 1 unit of Commandos. Shout out to the Commandos for making an appearance almost every week for all the lists that we go over. So then we have Custom Booster Blaster, followed by a Mega Track Scrapjet, 10 Knobs with Power Claws, followed by Shock Jump Dragster, 1 unit of Warbikers, 6-man unit, another unit of Warbikers is a 6-man unit, and then a 3-man unit of Warbikers. So those are obviously all for the Deffkilla Wartrike. The Custom Booster Blaster's data sheet ability is when you hit something, they get -1 to hit. And then the Boomdaka Snazwagon is if you get within 6 of it and you're not a vehicle or monster, you're -1 to hit. So it's pretty cool. He has different durability, defensive profiles into this. What I would say is this is very much trying to play kind of like Wolf Jail with less killing potential. You don't have a whole army-wide 4-up invuln, so for the most part, you're hard playing the flanks with your Deffkilla Wartrikes, just running up the table, jumping from terrain to terrain. You are allowing the Deffkoptas to take priority on position, that way they're safe, and if one of them has to be somewhat exposed, we've seen that Eric allowed one to be exposed slightly if he could, if he had to. And then he was always willing to spend that 4-up invuln because that's the best unit point for point that you're going to get the 4-up invuln on this Cult of Speed. And then also just knowing that you can do the reactionary move and letting your opponent know. That way, every time they get close to your bikers to try to counterpunch them or your Deffkoptas try to shoot them, you can just, I'm going to move. I'm going to reactive move to get away from you. So those were the 2 biggest, most potent strat. A lot of the time when people are looking at this list, they're constantly thinking, I'm going to use sustain. I'm going to use lethal. I'm going to focus on this and this cool combination. And I have damage 3. At the end of the day, Deffkoptas are just very much not reliable offensive profile, no matter what anybody says. The random amount of a shot, only -2 AP, so a lot of stuff still getting great cover saves. So it's very much just like, hey, I'm hoping to damage you, but really it's going to take almost 800 points to kill your 200, 300 point unit, but it's worth it. So I like to see that. And let's take a look at his map. And of course, like I want to say, he does have the knob brick. So everybody knows you need that knob brick for the actual killing potential. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on this list when I'm looking at it, just because this was my last entry. Yeah, in case anybody was wondering, he literally does not have a transport for those knobs. Just triple checking before I said that officially. That's very much, he just put them in the middle of the table and foot slogging those knob of bricks. He just set them up and said, if you come to the mid table, when I come out, I'm punching you, and that's it. Which I think a lot of people can learn from, to be honest. Of course, if you're playing singles, you do have to worry about you having to face those pressure punching armies. But we'll see that Eric did have his own things to overcome. So let's take a look at Eric's path to victory. So here we go, Eric Hoerger, Team Battle Brothers. It says 132 because that was just placing out of individual players, but his team got first. Today's sponsor, Baron of Dice. So Baron of Dice has great dice. They have actually enabled us to give these dice out for our paint competitions. So I greatly advise that you go out there. We have a link in the description for 5% discount. That's of course because nobody likes taxes. Shout out to Baron of Dice because they are actually customizing orc dice just for us that you guys will be able to get a hold of, and they look exceptional. So shout out to Baron of Dice. Really appreciate you guys, and I really do suggest you get them. I love the actual texture these dice have. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So Eric right here, we can see this is ITC scoring. So these were, if the really close point margins. He did get 2 draws in the beginning, an 18-point win, a 9-point loss, 11-point win, a 7-point loss. So, and 10's a tie. Anything greater than a 10 is a win. Anything lower than a 10's a 9. So these are very close wins. Or right here, he actually got draws, which when you're playing teams and you're playing this kind of army, you are intended to be that kind of sponge, which he did very well, as you can see from these scores. He never really got blown out, besides, the last round a little bit by my teammate. He, put out less points, but he put up 18 points on one of his games. And then he kept it very, very much draw in the middle, which means he did a great job for his team, which is what he was kind of doing, right? He was playing defender most likely. And then he was 2-month membership chat. He goes, I love and own the Boomdaka. I love to test it. I very much say you should. I like it a lot. And it at least has assault built in, so you can always shoot. Even if you're not playing Cult of Speed, you could stick them in somewhere, especially if you're playing against other melee armies and such, right? And yeah, Hamdog, the foot slogging knobs is impressive. So we have a first matchup. He went into Thousand Suns. So you guys know, Thousand Suns don't like to get pressured. They have their own shenanigan movement, but everything's pretty soft besides Magnus. And guess what? Your buggies have just enough offensive profile when it comes to killing that. A lot of the buggies are damaged too with some of their shooting. All of them are damaged too with their melee. And then, of course, you have the knob brick for punching. A trike on his own can beat up Rubric Marines alongside the knob. So I love to see it. So let's take a look. We have Ahriman, Infernal Master, Magnus the Red, Thousand Sun Sorcerer. Pretty obvious. Then we have Rubric Marines, just a simple 5-man. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of simple Rubric Marines, and then a Zangor. 3 Mutilex Vortex Beasts, Zangor and Lighten, Very clearly, the hard matchup here was 3 Mutilex Vortex. Very, very impressive that he was able to kind of deal with this list, because when you're trying to play the flanks and you're running at Mutilex Vortex Beast, you very much are getting 6 of your bikers picked up, and then your trike is kind of just running around solo. You have to play a really, really cagey, and of course, maybe even use your shock jump dragster to run out and kind of fill a lane so people can't get a line of fire on there. If you're able to get there before them to like cut that corner, if you're playing 4 corners, don't know the mission on that. And this might be one of those things where he really did try to actually kill at least one of those guys, because it would be worth it to even kill one of those Rubric Marines. Mutilex Vortex Beast. It could be that he just took enough of the table up and kept the guy back in jail just long enough that when the guy started getting going, as then the T-Sun player started getting going, he killed him. He just couldn't make a comeback, or maybe he did make a comeback, and that's why it ended up being a 10-10 point list, because it just wasn't a big enough victory. So shout out to him for dealing with T-Suns, because T-Suns mess orc ups a lot of the time, guys. And actually, I want to talk to Eric, because even though I did watch his game on War Games Live, me and him were trying to coordinate a interview and talk about the Cult of Speed as a whole. That way we can get someone who's actually a big advocator, but also great performer with them, instead of people who are just hoping that they're doing good but not actually putting the time in. Right? Eric clearly put the time in. So then for his second matchup, he went into Blood Angels, the Sons of Sanguinius. This is quite impressive, because you would right away think these guys have the easiest profiles to get punched away by Blood Angels. So let's take a look. We have a captain with jump pack, chaplain with jump pack, and a sanguinary priest with jump pack. 1 assault intercessor squad, 1 normal intercessor squad, 1 impulsor, 1 rhino, assault intercessors with jump pack, 1, 2, followed by 1 unit of Death Company, 1 unit of Death Company with jump pack, sanguinary guard, scout squad, and then a Vanguard veteran squad. Ooh, so just a little bit less of these jump pack units than would be optimal, which is very, very important, because one of these guys has to go into a Warbiker unit, another Warbiker unit, 1 for each Deffkoptas unit, and then you have all the buggies left over that deal with stuff. So buggies can actually, like, let's say a Megatrack Scrapjet does mortal wounds to sanguinary guards. Someone else can throw grenades at them. The bomb squeak from the commandos keep going to them, and or just stand in the way. Not to mention the big unit of knobs that are going to counterpunch one of these Death Company units is quite viable. And then just the individual buggies on their own going against some of these jump pack squads, yes, the buggy can get wrecked, but if the buggy gets the initiative, they can actually kill them as well, because they have the right profiles for that. So I very much could see this list being a very we both are being cagey, because you can reactionary move with your Cult of Speed units sometimes and get away from their charging potential, but at the same time, it is a pressure-oriented list, so you still do have to walk around and play the mission and take a position to score secondaries. The one thing this Blood Angels list is just straight up lacking is there's no fire support, meaning that you can just put your screen straight up in the way to a certain extent, because it's just like 1 impulsor and some intercessors, right? So you can put your screens in the way, like one of your units of Grot, or like I said, the commandos and your buggies, and then counter charge or get really close with your sustain and lethal, and then your rockets. These guys all have 3-up armor saves besides the sanguinary guard. But in that case, we've seen that Eric would try his best to not allow something to get cover when he tries to kill them with his rocket. That's very cool. Very good performance there by Eric, because Blood Angels are scary, and they would be, you would think that they would be a hard counter to your list. So great job by even making that a tied game. As for your third matchup, we have an 18-point win here. So he was just straight up all over the Sisters of Battle. That's one of the biggest things that I observed, is that if you can pressure the Sisters of Battle enough as an Orc player, they don't do a great job of punching you off them. They're not really good at combined arms. They're really good at like throttling mid-table damage. So Sisters of Battle, we have a Canonist with Jump Pack, Morgan Fall, Triumph of St. Catherine, 1 unit of Sisters of Battle, Emulator, Rhino, Castigator, Dominion for those nice splitting squads, Paragon Warsuits. These guys are actually good at killing nowadays. We have 2 of those. Oh, so I said they suck at combined arms. In this case, not so much, right? And they can actually do good into vehicles. Seraphim Squad, Sisters Novitiate. Not as many meltas as you would typically see, but a little bit more punch with Paragon Warsuit squads, right? The one thing about Sisters is they too are susceptible to the Cult of Speed slight damage. It might take a lot more points to get trades than you would want, but when you're taking enough pressure, killing just enough to retain your part of the table and play the mission, it goes a long way. And in this case, the Sister of Battle might have just been so worried about doing damage that he allowed the Cult of Speed to get all the positioning off, and getting charged early, and then he allowed him to get all the positioning off. What we did see in the War Games live stream is that Eric literally did a round 4 wall, meaning that he was not just straight up throwing himself at people all the time. In this matchup, he might have, but he was very much always using the walls like a back pocket weapon of, I can advance and charge into you, therefore you might want to kill these bikers before I choose to do it with my auto 6 advance. Oh, haha, the trick was I didn't ever really care to charge you with too many of them, but my Deffkoptas are going to run out, shoot you, tag you, you try to kill me, I have a 4-up invuln, or I have a 5-up invuln and a 4-up invuln if it's the WAAAGH, then I fall back, shoot you, and charge you again. And that usually just ends up being enough, because now they're in wolf jail, because for 2 turns they were scared of you, then on turn 3 you called the WAAAGH or you didn't, and then turn 4 you're in their face still. Then they blow the Cult of Speed player away, and then there's just not enough left, right? But in this matchup, I'm inclined that he just straight up killed enough of the Sisters to take position, so that's really cool. Then for his 4th game, he went into Blood Angels again, and this one he did, I think he lost this one, right? This one he did lose by 1 point. So we have Captain, Chaplain, and Jump Pack Lamar T. Sanguinor. 1, 2 units of Assault Intercessors, 1 basic Intercessor squad, followed by 2 units of Jump Pack Intercessors, 2 units of times 10 Death Companies, followed by a 5-man unit of Death Company, 2 Scout Squads. So the Scout Squads, pretty nice, right? Get in the way of the buggies, delay them, or just wait late game and then come up later and get in the way. In here, these, like I've said before, these Assault Squad, the Assault Intercessor squads typically don't have the profile into buggies, because they're only getting strength 6, buggies are T7, but with volume attacks and or maybe lance, it could hypothetically work. Jump Pack Intercessors being able to do mortals would help offset that, and then the Death Company's ability to punch things away. This one, it was a very close game, so anybody could have won this one, like we've seen with the other one. He just slightly came out not on top on this game matchup. Could be the mission, could be whatever it may be. Maybe Ben was a little bit more familiar. Unsure about that one. Hopefully Eric can extrapolate on maybe that loss when we talk in ourselves. As for his 5th matchup, he went into Spencer, which was a tile player. This was actually on War Games Live. This is the game where we didn't see a WAAAGH until turn 4. And it really did matter. So we have Cadre Fireblade, another Fireblade, Dark Strider, 1, 2, 3 Breacher squads, followed by 2 Devil Shipfish, 2 Hammerhead gunships, a Pathfinder squad, Piranhas are super annoying, in my opinion. They're like actually kind of tough and give you battle shock tests. It's pretty funny. 1, 2, 3 Riptide battle suits, which surprisingly he was actually able to kill. And we can watch War Games Live to see it, but he was actually able to kill these and deal with them just enough with like chip damage, tagging them, putting more stuff into them. It was actually super cool to see him actually take down these Riptides. And then 1, 2 units of battle, 3 units of battle suit, which were kind of used as roadblocks, but they just weren't good enough roadblocks. It was funny because you forget in this Cult of Speed list he had commandos, and in this list, he really hardly did anything with commandos, but leave them in one spot like the whole game, which is something that I think more people should pay attention to. Is like, just because your commandos are there doesn't really mean you always have to move them. Sometimes I'm just taking the positioning and you moving around is enough. And he really proved that in this matchup. Because you can see it on War Games Live, I don't want to spoil it. I would say just plan the sides of the table, positioning correctly, pre-measuring, reactionary moves, and chip damaging down stuff using all the firepower you got available. Took him to the win. It was a good game all the way. And then as for his final matchup, which was into my teammate, Jordan Nash, he was going into Necron's Awakened Dynasty. So we have the Catan Shard of the Deceiver, the Nightbringer, the Silent King, Catacomb Command Barge, Technomancer, Immortals, Heavy Locust Destroyer, and then 2 units of Canoptic Wraith. This list was actually quite durable, and that was one of the reasons this matchup didn't go Eric's way. As for, teammate pretty much said that Eric didn't kill anything or had a hard time killing anything. Of course, he probably killed a little bit, but had a hard time killing anything. And like I always say, if you're playing Cult of Speed and you go into a singles event, you have to expect that you might just straight up run into someone that damage checks you. And in that case, it sucks when they're still playing with 1,800 points and you have 1,000 now. So the jail works in theory, but it doesn't work if they could just straight up putting a large amount of points into you, because at that rate, you're not able to control your rate of attrition because you're not able to deal with enough of the threats, and then they're able to just kind of actually continue to score and put a big gap between you guys. So that's what we've seen here. It wasn't a huge, terrible win. I'm sure Eric still did great because Necrons aren't really known for damage, but when you're just not dying, when you're putting units into them, right? When the unit's just not dying like the Catans or the Silent King or the Wraiths enough, fast enough, in that case, then they're totally dwindling down your resources. And that's just what ended up happening here. So shout out to Eric, though, for only having 2 official losses in his team run. And like I said before, I actually hope that he and I actually get to speak and do an interview so we can actually dive deep into the Cult of Speed and try to learn the secrets of the cult. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!